So my experience with mugwort as a fire medicine that's used in moxibustion is that it can unblock and release tension, even the most debilitating and immobilizing tension, and all of the pain that can come with something like that. And moxibustion is also very good at increasing the power of the digestive system, at reducing nervous tension, and really just clearing and calming the mind. For me, it definitely promotes a much deeper and more rejuvenating sleep, and it also stimulates a more vivid and almost visionary quality within the dream state. And mugwort is very interesting like this because it's both a sedative but also a stimulant to the central nervous system. So it can help to calm down a more general and systemic kind of stress and stimulation, but at the same time, it really allows for a much sharper degree of focus and concentration, and not in a draining and exhausting way, but in a more fulfilling and meaningful way. I do find the spirit of the mugwort plant to actually be very gentle and forgiving, and it helps to bring my awareness to the behaviors and the personality traits that are more repetitive and perhaps obstructing personal progress. Because I do find that having a short attention span and being very easily distracted by bite-sized disposable content to be one of the more widespread preoccupations or addictions nowadays. And perhaps this also ties into what Nicholas Culpeper said in the 17th century about mugwort being especially useful in cases of poisoning and addiction, because this modern dependency on screens and devices is definitely very addictive, and it can be rather poisonous. And I do find that mugwort really helps me to focus on what I need to do right now, rather than procrastinating and just wasting my time and energy. Personally speaking, the aroma of burning mugwort helps me to initiate the process of releasing tension almost immediately, which means that my mind and body slow down. I become more aware of myself, more aware of my breathing and my posture, and the things that my mind is choosing to focus on. And so in this way, mugwort's actually very good at helping to loosen and dislodge the psychological and emotional debris and waste matter, but in a very gentle and almost reassuring way. And this does make me think about the many indigenous cultures that have spoken about the warming and unblocking properties of this plant, which I think definitely refer to the psychological and the emotional level as well as the physical. It's also interesting to remember that mugwort is an edge species, and in this case it is operating on the edge of consciousness, and so it can really help to build bridges between mindless autopilot and mindful awareness, but also between wakefulness and sleep. And even within sleep, mugwort can work on the boundary between deep unconscious sleep and the more REM phase of sleep, where vivid and even lucid dreams can occur. As a guardian of the edges, I honestly do find that in a more modern context, mugwort can help to navigate the edge between the algorithmic and hyper-marketed modernity, and on the other side of that edge, the sacredness of the natural world. Because clearly a gulf has formed between the human species and the sacredness of nature. We don't really see anything as sacred anymore, and we tend to have a very atrophied sense of awareness of the intelligence and the sentience within the various kingdoms of nature. And so as a result, we no longer understand that communication between the communities of plants and animals, fungi and people is actually possible, and in fact it's happening constantly. And so this perceived disconnection from the ecosystems where we live is generally why people are so overwhelmed now, so stressed, depressed, anxious and addicted, because The sacredness has been surgically cut out of our modern human experience. We're not interfacing with the land around us anymore, and very few of us have a connection or even an interest in the plants and animals where we live. But developing a deeper sense of connection and even dependency, not to digital devices or the internet, but to the wild, living nature all around us, this can nourish in ways that have become unfamiliar to us, yet the experience feels somehow primordial, like this is how people were always supposed to feel. And so for me, the spirit of Mugwort offers an invitation to be more present in this realm, in the natural world all around me, but also within me. And I do believe this is why it can help so much with releasing tension from within the body and mind, and reducing the more mindless and repetitive parts of our personalities, because these are cultivated behaviors. They're learned, and they're often the result of stress and trauma, and they're not relevant at all when experiencing and directly participating in the sacredness of nature. So there are many plant allies that can help to guide us towards a more sane and natural way of living, and some of them are incredibly strong and abrupt, and others, like Mugwort, are more gentle and gradual. And I think that recognizing and working with Mugwort, or really any plant, not as a substance, but as a being with a complex personality and the innate ability to communicate in its own way, if we are able to listen, this process can serve as a bridge through which we can begin reconnecting with the sacredness of the world all around us.